Good evening. You're watching Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Jose Luis Jimenez.
And I'm Greg Compian.
And Ben Mendez is actually in Los Angeles tonight. What a hard life, don't you think?
Man, Ben, I tell you what, the guy's always he's like the world traveler.
I know. I mean, someday I'll grow up to be just like him.
I tell you what.
So what's been going on out there?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, folks, if you're not concerned about what's going on in the Middle East, you should really, really pay attention to what's going on. I tell you that more than anything, it's unfortunate that we've had a death of a U.S. ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
From what I hear, he was a gem of a gentleman. And but all the other countries following suit into that. I mean, what do you think of that, Jose?
I'm really distraught over the entire situation over there. It's getting really concerning because, you know, it's going to and it is affecting our economy. Everything that is tied to that region, the well-being of our personnel, our people. We really have to be concerned about what's going on out there.
I tell you that economically speaking, the impact that it could have on the United States is just incredible, and it's kind of where you just kind of want to just stand back and just watch and see what happens. Hopefully, you know that anti-American hate-mongering, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's really unfortunate, and it couldn't be happening at a worse time right now.
Well, you know, if you really think about it, if you're paying attention to what's going on out there, they're discussing the fact that it's called anti-Islam protests. It's over that film that was created by that, I believe, an American filmmaker here in the United States. They're questioning him, and all those protests that are happening around that because a person made a video, degrading the religion. But I'm going to take it somewhere else right now. A lot of people don't realize that just 70, 80 years ago in Mexico, we had the same thing happening. You know, we had the war, the Christ Wars. There was a movie not too long ago. The Catholics were being killed in the same way. So it's happened before, and it's actually happened a lot closer than to the United States than we've ever really thought about. So it's not a new practice. Granted, it's modern day. I don't think it should be happening at all. But, you know, it appears to be that history continues to repeat itself, only, you know, it's just more modern times. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, like they say, don't let your history be a mystery. And unfortunately, if you look back over the years, the wars that have been started due to religion and what have you. And I think ultimately, you know, people can agree to disagree, but they need to be respectful.
You know, speaking about respectful, what did you think about candidate Romney's response on 9/11? You know, there was a lot of negative reaction to him shooting the gun too early. I mean, it had just happened. The ambassador had been killed that same evening, and then he sends out a political statement attacking President Obama at the time, where even the Republican supporters were saying that it was such bad timing on behalf of not President Romney, candidate Romney.
I like the response that the president gave. He said something to the fact that he shoots and misses. I think it's unfortunate for Mitt Romney. Evidently, his intel that he was getting was not up to speed, and from what I understand, at the particular time that he was giving those type of comments, that the consulate was being attacked. This was very unfortunate. I'm going to give him a hall pass, though. I don't think his intel was bad, and unfortunately he misspoke. With that being said, you know, you remember the old commercial that they would have about what would you do at that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning? You better get your sources right before you make any type of comment.
Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time, let's look at President Obama's reactions and the interactions. I think at this time, I know Secretary of State Hillary Clinton took a moment she did apologize, and she stood on behalf of those that are there to do good by the religion, that the religion itself was good, but the terrorists were not, and then she made a distinction between both. You know, because it was just an awkward situation to see, you know, because I don't believe in being completely militant in the sense of I am Christian, I am Catholic, but I think we also have to be mindful that we are respectful also of other people's religions. Now, if they attack us, we're going to attack them back. But this whole entire situation with the way it's been handled, I've just been wondering how this is going to play out and what the United States position is, because the way the Republicans are playing it, it makes it seem like President Obama and the current administration is weak on foreign policy. But is that really the case?
You know, Jose, it's unfortunate that we're airing our dirty laundry, whether it's the pundits, the media, or whatever it may be. But unfortunately, on the global stage, we're showing such division, and at what cost? Ultimately, if you remember, after the attack of 9/11, everyone got behind our president, George W. Bush, and said, "Go get him, go after him," and he was the commander in chief. And you know, I think the division amongst our country right now is really coming at a cost. And unfortunately, I hope that they can kind of get their hands around this and kind of bring it to a halt. But I tell you what, you know, fighting in the Middle East has been going on for thousands of years, so it remains to be seen.
Well, let's talk about the actual efforts of the Navy. I think the Navy SEAL who took out Osama. Now, was it Osama bin Laden?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, went on national television, wrote a book, is telling publicly all the details. Now, I haven't read the book, and honestly, I wouldn't read the book because as a veteran, as an ex-military, you know, you don't share that kind of information. And I'm very disappointed that that book is even released. I mean, I'm surprised that the man hasn't been court-martialed and stopped from speaking, because you don't do that. It's like, it's a secret mission. Why would you go out there and tell the entire world what occurred?
You know, I tell you that you have some people saying that the gentleman is a hero, and rightly so. You could probably give him that label, but unfortunately, if you don't stand for something, you stand on nothing. Once that's been breached, my personal opinion, if they don't hold the accountability, they lose that everything that it stands for. Boy, that's a tough one. You know, it really is. But I tell you what, there again, that's a major breach.
So what do you think should happen to this young man? I mean,
Nobody should buy his book. I think that the military should take some type of, but that would be very, very unpopular. And there again, you go right back to the division. People will make it a political witch hunt, if you would, and it shouldn't be. I mean, without rules, there's chaos, and that's chaotic.
in the military, there is no politics. There shouldn't be any politics. And even as well, some of the things that we learned right from the very beginning, what you learn and see and do inside of there, depending on what levels of security you're at, you just never say anything.
Jose, if they don't take some type of action on this, I mean, where is it going to end?
Yeah, if he's the first one, I mean, what stops anybody else from speaking?
Yeah.
There's got to be some major consequences to this.
I would just like to say that if you look at the gentlemen that serve our country, the sacrifices that they and their family, and rightly so, I would say, I'd be the first one to tell you that that man is a hero. But, however his thought process was to make that decision, I guess only he knows, but I think that he needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, as a veteran and as a soldier, I know that everyone who goes in and commits their life to being a soldier, you should be commended for it. And at the same time, there's been plenty, just like in every other type of line of business, including police force, fire department, etc. There are unfortunately some few bad apples. You know, I'm not saying he is, but the fact that he didn't, you know, do what he's told and not say anything, because they debrief you like crazy when you do anything else. You know, I'm really distraught over the fact that you air out the way it happened. You know, inside him, people can read him between the lines. There's always people looking for ways to attack the United States. There could have been some special information that could be released, and I just hope that the military, Pentagon, stops it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, very unfortunate for the country.
Well, it's also, let's look at something here. If you have an opinion on what we're saying, call in. Okay, the number's 281-846-5079. If you want to chime in, join us. We want to hear what you think about this. Let's talk about some Latino issues out there right now. The voting. Here in Harris County, in case you didn't know, here in Harris County, in the state of Texas, you're supposed to purge the dead voters. And I believe our Harris County clerk decided not to do that. And then there's a little fight and argument going on between the state and the local county. Really, it's an interesting situation because it boils down to administrating the voters, administrating who's actually a registered voter and who's going to have the right to vote this upcoming election. What do you think about that?
Well, I tell you what, dead folks been voting for a long time. Mail-in ballots, I tell you what. And I'm going to tell you that mail-in ballot program has determined a lot of elections. So I think the timing was wrong. And Sumner got on TV and he defended his position based that this came from the state level. But right before an election, I think the timing was bad. Could it be perceived as voter intimidation and what have you? Oh, very much so. I think the timing was terrible. There again, that even more ought to make people stand up and just really make their vote count.
When I went to go vote this year, it was really interesting because I've always gone to vote the same precinct, same process. In the last, I think, 6 years, I've gone to the same location. And for the first time, they walked in there and said, we need to re-verify that you actually live in your house. I'm like, I own it. I mean, why are you having to make me re-verify? Well, please go to the side and fill out this piece of paper. And I'm like, really? Now? After all these? But, I followed through and I did it. I got it done and I went ahead and finished the vote. But what if I wasn't an engaged and an educated voter, as they say? What if I would have been intimidated by that process and not known how to fill out that form? Would my vote counted or not?
Well, yeah, but then, I tell you what, there shouldn't be any method used to not have people participate in the voting, their right to vote. But unfortunately, there is a lot of that happens, Jose. People live in different areas and they vote here and what have you, and you've got some elected officials out there that are maybe not truthful on where they're actually residents of. So I think the timing, the education, is there a need? There's probably some breaches there that could probably be addressed, but I think the timing is wrong.
So, it's kind of interesting to know that we have a presidential candidate that is, to a certain extent, from parents of Mexican descent or Mexican citizen parents. You know who he is?
Yeah, no, I sure don't.
Yeah, it's called Mitt Romney. His dad was born in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Mennonite colony down in Chihuahua, the father was born over there.
Yeah.
So, there's actually an article that just came out that that Mitt Romney made a statement to the effect of if his parents would have been Mexican descent, he might have a better chance of actually winning this. So it's kind of interesting to see how the I don't know what you're going to call it. Is it the power, the new star power of being Latino is getting out there again? We think about it. Who was the keynote speaker at the Democratic Party? Julian Castro. What did you think about his speech?
I think he did a great job. I tell you what, he's up and coming, and he spoke well. He was electrifying. A little young. I don't know. I'm glad, but I think he's. I've heard some kind of scutterbutt about him thinking about maybe running for governor, but I don't think he's at that point. But it's good to see him out there getting that national recognition by all means.
Why do you think he's too young?
He is too young. I tell you what, the responsibility as far as the fiscally where we're at as a state, I tell you, personally, I'd rather see someone more experienced, more business savvy, and more of someone to kind of not be black or white. Just kind of, sometimes life is a little bit gray.
No, I think life is very gray.
Yeah.
There is right and wrong, but there are some gray areas to everything that we do, right?
I tell you that, but you know, we're real fortunate. You know, we live in the best country that's out. Uh, uh, we really, really just need to get out and vote. Doesn't matter what party you vote for. I think y'all know where I'm at on the deal, but still, it's not
Republican?
about me. Oh, come on now.
You're gonna hit me now.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you now.
So you think there's going to be a woman candidate before a Hispanic candidate? What do you think out there? Do you think it's going to be a Hispanic candidate first or a woman candidate? What do you think is going to be first? We now have a black president. History was made. You think we're going to have a true presidential female candidate first before a Hispanic candidate?
It's good to aspire and reach for the stars, reach for the sky. But I think we got to backtrack a little bit, guys, and we really need to get our people out to vote first and make them understand the importance of voting and having their voice heard. Are there young, strong, aspiring candidates out there? Oh, by all means.
But you know what I want to get to? I want to get to the point to where we don't actually have to label the person running for president.
Never happen.
I think it will.
Oh,
I can dream.
Put your lily glasses back on.
They're back on,
Yeah,
man. Think
come
about
on, man.
it. Think about it. What if one day we actually have a candidate running that isn't the black presidential candidate or the Hispanic presidential candidate? What if he is the qualified presidential candidate? The person that actually cares about the community, wants to, create smart, educated, competitive generations of children. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't care about the financial situation. Why don't we actually see that as a reality?
Folks, I want to invite y'all to the show. Thank you for being here. And I want to introduce our new co-host, Johnny Appleseed.
Oh, my
who's
goodness.
Been asleep
come on
for the
now.
Past,
Hey,
I
can
don't know,
believe.
40 years, 50 years.
Come on, man. Can't you see that happening one day?
Johnny Appleseed, thanks for having us. So what kind of...
hey, I believe. I mean, think about it. Why can't it happen? Do you think it'll happen in our generation?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think actually we've gone backwards instead of forwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
There again, lack of education, lack of participation, lack of understanding. In the 60s, there was so much fight for the segregation, I think, or integration, and we basically segregate ourselves today. So, no, I don't see that happening.
Well, I'm going to continue to dream and to believe. I think that we can actually get to the point where we don't have to worry about, arguing over what race, what color, what gender that person is someday. I mean,
Put your Johnny Appleseed, folks.
Hey,
thank y'all for.
I'm enjoying it. I can believe I can share that to my kids. But think about it. Maybe one day they'll actually see it too. But I gotta be realistic. Let's be realistic here. And unfortunately, society continues to be that way as long as we continue feeding that animal. Don't you think?
Oh, very much so. But I tell you that it's about different cultures, and I think instead of really kind of wishing for pie in the sky, I think we should do better is try to intermingle and have better understanding and better communication and bring people in instead of keeping people out.
That's a real good point. On that note, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about how we as community members can interact closer with other groups and learn from each other, okay? So you're watching Latino Talk TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Latino Talk TV. We're here in the Houston Media Source Studios. If you ever thought about having your own TV show, you have something special to talk about, join Houston Media Source. It's a lot of fun, and you can do something like this. It'll be great. So now what we're going to do is introduce our first guest. It is Ms. Celia Valles. She is on the board of directors of the Miller Outdoor Theater. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. So tell us what's going on at the Miller Outdoor Theater.
Well, for Hispanic Heritage Month, we've had a great program. We just finished up with el 16 de septiembre, and we had featured Oscar Leonard and La Mafia, which was a great concert. For those of you who missed it, I'm sorry to say that you missed a great show, but not to fear, we have a lot more coming up. This coming Saturday, we have Salsa y Salud, which is an awesome program coming up. And then, of course, our all-time 33rd annual Chicano Festival. That will be always featuring Little Joe and La Familia.
Boy,
one of my
little Joe, I mean, he does it, doesn't he?
Oh yes, always. He'll bring on a good show, and then we bring in, the old town music, the Hana music, Latin Breed, Saints and Sinners, Ramon Ayala, just whoever's available, Ram Herrera, Aviso. So we have both the good Tejano artist bands and some of our local here.
What day is this again?
That is October 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's a 3-day festival.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun.
And the best thing about Miller Outdoor Theater, all performances are always free.
Wow.
There's no charge. We have seating for about 700 patrons, and you can always come the day of the event to select up to 4 tickets per person. Otherwise, you have that option of sitting on our great famous hill. Bring out your lawn chairs, your blankets, and you can pack your own picnic. You can bring your own distilled spirits, as long as there's no glass bottles.
Sally, just for the people that are out there, just give them a number of the number of people that show up for like the El Grito. I mean,
Well, El
huge.
Grito, that was a production done on behalf of Miller Outdoor Theater, our advisory board, along with the Consulado de Mexico. So there was joint effort. So we did have over 10,000 people come.
Incredible.
And it was a great family event Friday night. That was Saturday night. So it was great because it's from all generations. And we have ballet folklorico and mariachis, and from 4 and 5-year-olds on the stage up to whatever age they may go to.
Wow, and all the events are free.
Definitely always free. There's never a charge at Miller Outdoor Theater.
I can tell you one thing, folks. This lady right here, she's in everything. And that's how you engage people. You do exactly what she does, and she gives. She's always giving. She's always volunteering, and she's and bringing good information, good resources, and everything to our community. I tell you, if you've never been to the Grito Jose, it's incredible. And I tell you that I would have guessed 15, 20,000 people. But, I mean, 10,000, it's a lot of people out there.
So how did you get involved with all this?
Well, it's really, it's back when you have to actually be appointed by the mayor. It was Mayor Lee Brown was in office, and at the time it was Gabriel Vasquez was city council member. They had asked me to send in a resume, which I did, and it was actually to keep America beautiful, to help with different service projects for the city. At the time I was employed with Girl Scouts, so I thought that would be hand in hand. But when they received my resume, they asked, Sally, would you be interested in joining the Miller Outdoor Theater Board, which I had been a patron to, but I never knew the background of it. So I did, and I'm still with Miller 10 years later. I'm going on my 11th year.
Wow.
It's just been an honor, and the way it works is thanks to the City of Houston and the hotel occupancy taxes that we receive, certain percentage is allocated to the board, and we interview the different producers, and then there's a matching fund. So the show cost $50,000, and Miller Outdoor Theater Board allocated you $20,000. The producer has to match those funds by 100%, and without in-kind. You can still receive in-kind donations, but the money part has to be matched fully 100%.
Okay, so is there an opportunity, now this is more on the logistical side of things,
Right.
so say I'm a producer, or a producer comes to Miller Outdoor. They have to go and present to the board?
Yes, you submit an application, and then there's a review. And so each time there's a performance, I go to enjoy the performance, but I'm actually doing homework. I have to do an evaluation on each producer, and it's just a variety of different things. We look at the audience, the culture tourism it brings to Houston, and the family event. What was it? Very productive on stage? Was it, very family oriented? So professionalism to some degree. So it's a great production across the board.
When she's out there dancing and doing vueltas, she gets a 360.
Point of view.
So can people volunteer, if they're watching the show right now, can they volunteer with the Miller Outdoor Theater?
Well, I'm sure there's to some degree. We are always looking for volunteers out in any capacity. But the producers actually hire their own, whether it's their security, and then they hire their ushers for the venues. So it's try to, stays within what the producer has. But it's, we have different organizations that may be, for example, voter registration. I heard you talking about voters. And if you like to set a table out in front of Miller Outdoor Theater, to accommodate, because the ethnicity and the production, the variety of people we have to come out to Miller's from all aspects of the city of Houston. So you might be able to, if the producer allows you, to have a table set up and come produce your, present whatever you have, has a 501c3.
So So basically, the producer is the one that runs the entire show, and Miller just
Yes.
takes a step back.
Right, unless it's a Miller Outdoor Theater presented presentation that we do.
So what are their do's and don'ts? Or they're mainly their don'ts. So you know.
Well, there's a lot. Usually, like I said, on the stage, we want to keep it family oriented because it's open to the general public. So we try to keep it clean and professional. But the don'ts are probably something that's not going to be family oriented. It has to be a production that's really going to come across the board to any generation. You know, that can be presented by all and all ethnicities. We have bilingual performances, but at the same time, there are translations to where anybody could actually understand them.
Give out the information again about when Little Joe's going to be at the Miller. People
Know where your
Let
mind
me
is at,
call
right?
you. They're my favorite. That's my absolute.
Yeah.
I'm biased when I come to that one. But it'll be October 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's our Festival Chicano. Our producer, Daniel Bustamante, has been with Miller since its inception. And he has really come a long way in helping us to produce. And we had Ramon Ayala out one year, and we just, he would perform at the rodeo, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and had a great crowd. So it just depends, who was willing to come up and help Daniel and come to the public because they have to do it at a low cost. Well, there's no way we could afford them. So, they come and they help support Miller and Daniel Bustamante and his efforts in bringing out the generations, as once I said again, from all ages, and to really celebrate the Tejano music that we once had here in Houston.
Speaking of Tejano music, we don't have a Tejano station anymore per se. I think it's on satellite radio now or secondary radios.
Yes.
And I think that's been a huge impact to the culture and the history of that music. Is the Chicano Fest going to go into some of that history?
Well, I hope so. I tune into the internet, TejanoHits.com and BNet Radio and what I can find on the internet, because it's unfortunate that the city of Houston, as large as we are, doesn't have our own Tejano Hit radio station. At one point we had 2, and now we have none. So unless I listen to the internet or my CDs, we're limited. But come out to Miller and you'll hear some more music.
So what other types of shows are out there other than just for the
Other
next
than
month?
we have anything. We have the ballet from China. We have productions from India, from the Philippines, and we have our Spain guitarist coming in, Benice Fuego. So it's just a great variety. We have children programming coming up. I think in 2 weeks we'll have Hansel and Gretel, and that's a on-stage production, and it's like at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, so children can come out. We have different school districts that come out for field trips and bring the children out to enjoy Miller as well.
Plenty of parking. The grounds are beautiful. The time of the year, I mean, it's like California weather. I tell you what. And then Little Joe and the Familia to boot. Wow.
I think the most important part of this is that I don't know if you saw there's an article on NBC Latino that came out, and another research report that came out that showed that 1 in 4 Americans equated the word Latino to illegal immigrant, and it was. I started to giggle when I first read it because it's like it's really a shame of how the marketing of a certain brand, which is illegal immigrant, equates Latino. There's so much stereotypes still happening today, and I really love what Miller Outdoor Theater does to dispel those myths, because you bring in cultural aspects that are from all over the world that are all happen to be Hispanic, right?
Exactly, we do. Yeah, so there's a lot great, and you can go onto our website and visit our website at www.milleroutdoortheater.com, and it'll give you the whole calendar of events. And I always like to plug in Metro, because I think Metro is a great opportunity. You can do the Metro Rail, don't worry about parking, walk into the facilities, and it's just an easy, fast pace to come and go.
So I have a personal question to ask you.
Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir, I work for a living. You ready? All right, so have you rolled down the hill too?
Oh, yes, many a times. Many a times. It's just a given. It's tradition. You have to do that once out at Miller.
As a kid, I know that as growing up, we would go to Miller Outdoor Theater all the time, and that was the one thing we had to do every single time we were there. Now, granted, I had grass all over the place, and Mom would get mad because I messed up all my pants. But still, it's a tradition, and now actually I do the same thing with my kids now too. When we go out there, it's like, all right, go ahead, start rolling.
Tradition.
Have you done it?
Johnny Appleseed, when did you do that? Come on now.
I did
You've been like
Yeah,
this.
hasta con la loquita, man. Have you done it?
No, I haven't.
Come on, man.
Man, I'm from Richmond and Rosenberg.
We'll fix that problem. Hey, all right, Chicano Fest.
Chicano Fest.
There you go.
But we invite everyone to come out to Miller and just come out and have a family-free fun event.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to take a real quick break, and we'll be right back. You're watching Latino Talk TV here at Houston Media Source. Hey, are we back on? Hey, we're back on. We're back. Oh, God, I love this. All right, you're still watching Latino Talk TV, and we're back now here at Houston Media Source. We're having a couple of technical difficulties. But anyways, let's get back to what we're talking about. Greg, you had some questions?
Yeah, I tell you what, since we have two experts, what's going on in LULAC? What's new with LULAC?
Where's the other expert?
I mean, come on, you were deputy director for how many years?
Okay.
It's good that we have a little
All right. No
different
one,
perspective.
y'all didn't know I was actually district director of LULAC in District 8.
Yes, welcome. Well, it's been a pleasure. I've also been a member of LULAC. I've been a member probably going on 10 years.
Wow.
And I was currently a second vice president of LULAC Council 402, which we are really known for the Educational Council. And our last month, we gave out $42,000 in scholarships.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Mostly to inner city kids. And we do scholarships for those who are non-residents. And it's just a privilege to go out and hear these students. You know, they'll prepare an essay, and the majority of the time, it's always, I'm the first in my family. I'm the first in my family to be going on to college. So it's really rewarding to be able to raise funds to give these students an opportunity to go on to a higher education.
So I want to say something here. If you don't know how LULAC works, LULAC is structured in such a way that there are several independent groups or councils within the district. As of right now, I understand there's 2 districts here in the greater Houston area, but each council is independent to do what they wish to do within the LULAC code and the LULAC mission statement. And what Council 402 does, which is one of several councils, like 50, 60 councils?
Yes.
Easily within the greater Houston area. Council 402 historically has given large numbers of scholarships every year and is known for being, as some call it, the education council, because minimally you give $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of scholarships.
We try.
And
yes,
that in itself is what the organization is meant for. And we got a phone call already. But that being said, LULAC is the League of United Latin American Citizens. It's actually a very patriotic organization if you truly read the mission statement and what the organization is meant for. But now let's talk about the rest of the story. What are some of the other conversations that, LULAC doesn't have a great reputation here in Houston?
You know, well, the reason, and I have to admit, I was probably one of those concerned citizens that stepped back. And the reason I joined LULAC, you're going to laugh about this, Greg, was because Little Joe was playing at the National Convention here in Houston. And at the National Convention, we had Little Joe has our entertainment, and it was cheaper to attend the convention as a member than non-member. So I became a member, but I've stayed with it ever since. And I've learned more and more about the mission and what they do. And I actually served as the secretary for the entire state of Texas. And working with the state director, we've worked on issues having to do with redistricting, having to do with voter ID bills, so much that goes on that affects the Hispanic community.
Okay. Let's do this. We got Jamie on the phone.
Jaime.
Jaime or Jamie? How are you doing? You're on the air.
Yes. Hey, my question was, I have a few friends that are in LULAC, and I was very disappointed to see the infighting that was going on between Texas and National, and what I didn't understand it until it was kind of said, in back rooms where it's not brought up, that a lot of the problem with LULAC is, it has Republican leadership at the national level trying to rein in the Democratic membership. I just wonder what y'all think about that.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for calling in, Jamie. You want to answer it?
Well, working like I said with the state, I think what happened is, it's like you said earlier, Jose, LULAC is a membership drawn with their own constitution. So we have our own constitution, and the constitution is set out, I mean, directly, exactly what our rules are, the way our offices are ran, the way our elections are held. And yes, to some degree, we just had some, internal disagreements, but at the same time, there's so much going on with the Hispanic community that we feel that we need to unite, as our motto is all for one and one for all, and move on. It's unfortunate, and I'm sure with any 501c3 organization you have those internal disagreements, but we have to find common denominators and move forward so that we can, of course, help the community.
Well, it's kind of like como dice el dicho, cada cabeza es un mundo. So there's very strong, minded people there, and some have different direction, but ultimately that's where there's some type of chain of command, if you would. So I'd rather focus on the positive LULAC has done and has done in the community for years and years. And with two experts right here, they grab a hold of some very hot, hard topics, issues, and they're not afraid to take it on.
That's actually very true. As they say, a true LULACer doesn't get afraid of the issue. And I think that's how we met. Mm-hmm. The first time that we interacted was when I didn't know who Greg Compian was. You called me out of the blue, for a LULAC issue.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I'm like, who's this Greg? But I'll help him out. But let's talk about the real issues. If you don't know the history of LULAC, the history itself and the history of the Latino community here in Texas. If you're not aware of what had occurred, you're gonna be, open to repeating the history again. And yes, the times have changed, but the opportunity for that type of thing to occur again is still there. So let's talk about the history. If you didn't know, here in Houston, the foundation of the Head Start program started here in Houston, actually off of Bagby Street, right in the Midtown downtown area. There was a group of gentlemen in Council 60. They got together and started realizing that there was a lot of children they're not letting into school simply because they could not speak the fundamentals of the English language. So they took it upon themselves to create the Little School of 400. They actually hired a teacher on their own, a bilingual teacher, to actually teach the kids in the neighborhood there to become prepared to enter HISD. That's one of the biggest issues, right? I mean,
that's correct, with Felix Tejerina.
That's right. Do you have any other pieces of history?
Well, I think that at one point LULAC was an all-men organization, and eventually they did let the women come in. So I think it has really, really grown over the years. But I think that what's happened with LULAC is that it's a civil rights organization. We have so many issues within our community that people don't know where to turn, where to go, and LULAC is an option that we are able to assist them. Our current project is now with the Deferred Action Program, trying to get these dreamers to fill out their forms on in good time and in good faith with attorneys that will assist them, not to promote anyone, but it's just that we want it done right, we want it done proper, and we don't want them to be taken, advantage of the situation while they're trying to become citizens. So LULAC has geared up together and had some forums. We've held one out in Galena Park, and we held one out in South Houston, in Pasadena. And so we're looking to the different varieties of neighborhoods to go out and help the general community as to what are the proper procedures and policies of filling out this application.
As to what the caller said, he has a very good point. And unfortunately, that's the information that gets out. And I think what we need to learn, not just LULACers, but our community, we can disagree. Let's do it behind closed doors, but let's walk out that door united.
It is exactly
and one
correct.
Voice.
I agree with
Totally
you 100%.
agree.
Because if you watch the media here, a lot of the times the story, you get the 1 minute, 30-second soundbite. And you don't have access to the full story.
That is so correct.
And when the name of LULAC would come out, or even to this day it comes out, you get the 3-second soundbite, 4-second soundbite of 10 or 5 words that were spat out, for lack of a better term, in a moment of a press conference without actually knowing the true fundamental issues behind it. And historically, even to this day, I meet people and say, "Oh, you're LULAC. Why did you get involved with that organization?" Why? I'll tell you why. Because As a high school student, I had a LULAC member who's the one that took me in and let me be his intern at his law office. And this is a young man. I, growing up in the north side of town, had never even put on a tie. And I learned to put on a tie, 5 days a week. And it was a LULAC member that took it upon himself to start molding and coaching. So I do the same thing today. I look for local
Jose how to tie a tie.
No, you don't. You're not wearing one right now.
I
That's why I cheat.
I
But
told
that's
him, I
it.
said, first you got to lay down and then I'll teach.
But it was a LULAC member that did that, and then
good
as a senior in high school, it was that LULAC member that sponsored me to go to Washington D.C. with a LULAC youth trip. So that to me has been one of the most memorable moments in my high school career.
Awesome. Well, so yeah, it's a great part. Usually when you do find students who have received scholarships on behalf of LULAC, they'll come 2 or 3 years later and said, it was because of you that I actually went to college, I finished my degree, and now it's my turn to give back. So that is just a great, awesome generation to keep going, because it's like eventually someone like Jose has just commented on, his example he gave, someone was out there to help us along the way. Right. And now it's our turn to give back, and then eventually they come back to help the community. So it's just a blessing in disguise.
No, it is, but a lot of times when you look at the news, all you see LULAC is the protests.
Right.
So we've had LULAC's been very active in a lot of protests.
And that's why it's important that we're giving out the message that we're giving out today, letting people know the amount of scholarships and whatever, the impact that it's had on young people's life, and why people need to get involved. Even the young. More importantly, the young.
If you're watching this show and you've been affected, improved, benefited, whatever word you want to use, by LULAC or any LULAC member or any LULAC council, any LULAC scholarship, I ask you, take time and return the favor. Because there is another student that is today just as needy as you were when you received that scholarship. It's our turn to give back and to provide those same scholarships. Because if you think about it, that's really what the biggest argument that's going on right now. People are out there arguing that, the poor, the people feel entitled and they shouldn't deserve access to what you had access to. There's less grants, there's less opportunity, there's less less money out there. So it's up to us to change the future of those generations. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with you, Jose. Yes, I think is that, there's opportunity given. We have to find that advantage and help our students to move on. And I think that with LULAC behind the scenes that we've been able to do that. And it's just, not only with education, it's community projects. I know y'all talked about voting earlier, and LULAC has been a really, really big supporter in getting the vote out and trying to register people. It's irrelevant what party you belong on. But I think it's just important to get these students registered to vote and to get them to the polls. It's very necessary to get them out to cast those ballots.
And just see, if you didn't know, LULAC's been around since 1929. Okay, it's not a new organization. It's not something that just started yesterday. LULAC's been involved with several very powerful, very important lawsuits. I think there's LULAC cases that are studied at just about every law school in the country. So it's not just an organization that just came from it was a fly by night. It was made by an organization of veterans. They got together to create an opportunity for Americans of Mexican or Latino descent to become part and learn the system of the United States without losing your culture. And that is possible. It is possible to do both. So, today, the term of assimilation, let's talk about assimilation and what it means to, the community, the Hispanic heritage. Why we even still to this day celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month? Why is that even occurring? Granted, I celebrated myself, right? But why do we have to continue that type of situation today? I mean, were we ever going to get to the point to where it's just normal to be Hispanic, or you don't have to segregate or give a month to a certain race, like Black Heritage Month, Hispanic Heritage Month?
Well, I think it's important, Jose, and I hope we don't ever lose that, because that makes it the special. And why we do it is for the kids, so they understand the history and the struggle and what it's taken to get us here. And I think that if you I think we lose something by the lily glasses that you like to put on. So
why you gotta insult me for? Why you gotta dog me? I'm putting a statement out there. Why you gotta stay so close-minded?
Well, I agree with you, Greg, that we still need to continue the history and the heritage. But I'm not saying. But I think what it is that the importance of it is the fact that we have children who grow up today now that they don't speak as much Spanish. We spoke Spanish porque los abuelitos hablaron español. Our grandparents spoke Spanish, so we were forced to speak more Spanish. Today's children, they have the social media, the internet, and Facebook. They're not speaking the Spanish we did as children. You know, and it's unfortunate that we lose Spanish, so when they're in the middle school and high school taking these Spanish courses, they're not as fluent, being raised here. And then the people coming in from Mexico, they're so wanting to learn the English language. So it's like the assimilation has to be a culture of together. Don't lose it, because eventually when you go out into the corporate world, what are they looking for? Bilingual professionals. And the pay is even an increase if you can speak the language, and not only Spanish, but any dual language.
Think of this. Well, you make that 1-800 phone call, and it says, for English, press 1. Para español, prima el número 2. Prima el número 2. Because then you're giving someone a job there.
This is true.
So there's little things that you got to read between the lines on a lot of this stuff. You're providing an opportunity of a person that's bilingual to stay employed by marcando el número 2.
Well, what I want to do is create an opportunity for a person to be trained and educated to be able to answer that phone, because there's a lot of bilingual kids that don't have that educational opportunity because their parents haven't been able to save money, because they don't have LULAC scholarships there in front of them, or grants anymore because of the federal government. Pell Grants almost got cut off completely.
You know, I had lunch today with a couple of gentlemen, and one of the gentlemen donated a large sum of money to University of Houston, the gala that's coming up that Tacho Mendiola does, and I'm on that committee right now to help raise some funds. But I liked his mindset was, you know what, I'm going to give some money, and it's a large sum, but I'd like to give it to the C student, you know, to push them over the hill instead of the A students that are getting it.
Get it
And you know, I tell you what, he really had a remarkable point. You know, that C student he's more on the edge.
Because he has to work, he has to hold 2 jobs, and he has family responsibilities, and he's still trying to move ahead.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, it's amazing you should say that, because I'm working full-time right now, part-time, with United Way. And through United Way, we partner up with the Houston Texans on a readers program. And what they found is that, because we've done a study through United Way, that children would need to start in kindergarten and pre-K learning to read. We have 4th and 5th graders who can't read at their level. So we're teaming up with the Houston Texans November 3rd, and we're going to have a Reader's Day with Houston Texans where all families can come out and everybody's going to be mentored and given books and help them to start reading at the kindergarten and pre-K levels. So I think that, you know, the C student, you're right, but if we don't get started at the primary levels to get them up and reading, we'll lose it totally.
You know, Jose, I don't mean to shift gears, but I want to touch on a point for the viewers that are out there. Hey, you know, I serve on the Harris County Houston Sports Authority Board, and right now with what's going on with the Astros, and the next year they're coming into the American League, the Astros are going through a rebranding. So they're going to be changing the logo and what have you. And
Have they won a game?
Well, that's part of why I'm bringing it up. So the viewers out there, for next week, point of view, what can you do to get more engagement? Is it community outreach? What is it? Because there's obviously that, you know, the Crane Group bought the team. We own the stadium, being we, the community, and we have a voice in this. And what could they do? What suggestions do people bring to the table? Because there's no doubt in my mind that the new ownership will put together a championship team, but you know, to get people engaged again. So I want to leave you viewers out there thinking about that for next week.
You know, that's a really good point.
That's a really good point.
Because if you go to the border towns, like when I used to go visit my great grandma in El Paso, you know, she lived right across from the Diablos Stadium, in El Paso Diablos. They were there. They were the Diablos, right? But anyways, we would walk like 3 or 4 blocks and we would watch the game because it was a community event. And outside the event, it was like a little festival. I mean, there were booths and tents and face painting, and all the kids would go simply because that's what it was. And the tickets were like $2. Well, granted, it was back in the early 80s.
You just hit the head. $2. We went with $2 tickets.
You know, but it's this empty stadium. It's like,
an empty
but if it's a
stadium right
festival, like every game that we would go to, every time we went to El Paso, it was a festival. There were balloons and party. I mean, it was a big festival to go to the Diablos game. I mean, there it is. If you want people to show up, have a festival, have a party.
Community Day. Have a LULAC Day at Minute Maid. We'll be there.
Good points. Good points. And I think that's why it's important that we ask the community what can be done, what suggestions can we bring to the table when we're in front of the leadership, because believe me, they ask also. There's not a doubt in my mind that the new ownership, believe me, they've got some plays that they're going to make. But I tell you, man, we have to be a championship city. And, you know, Texans off to a good start, you know, 2-0. Look at the Dynamos.
Think of it. Inside the stadium, I understand that there's a contract for concessions. But you have an entire, you know, street side all the way around. You can create a vendor's paradise. You know, bring in the food truck network. You got all those food trucks. There's a syndicate of food trucks out there that they all have their own following. All they have to do is a text blast or a Facebook blast to bring everybody together. You know, corn, raspas, all that stuff. Put it outside. You know, why not? Now, have you been to a soccer game, the kids' soccer games?
I tell you what, but yes. But talking about soccer, look at a man who sees it, who recognizes the future. Les Alexander taking a play at the Dynamos. Yeah. And I mean, I tell you what,
awesome.
that's
not by accident.
that's some vision there.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of exciting things going on. And folks, you got to understand that this is ours. This belongs to all the members of our community, and take ownership in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually participated in the Dynamo block party before the games, and before every game, there's a block party outside. You walk in, there's booths or tents, every single spot, everything from, you know, insurance to seafood restaurants to a live stage. Wow. I mean, it's a lot of fun just before the game.
And you know, look at and the neighborhoods, the Little League parades and the Little League football parades and the cheerleaders and engaging the kids and having them. Well, look at the new Astros that they just acquired. The 17-year-old Dominican kid. Is 17 or is he 18?
He's
young guy,
making a lot of money.
Yeah, well,
that's good. That's great. Thanks. So he's living the American dream. So on that note, we continue to live the American dream and we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. On that note, let's think about something else. Stay involved in the community, do something, help somebody, and be part of what's going on. Please support the Miller Outdoor Theater, all the free events. Give money to scholarship funds. Do whatever you have to do to help change the future of somebody else. Okay? On that note, you are watching Latino Talk TV here at Houston Media Source. Have a great night.